Hello everyone and welcome to the Machang Optical Kamlan 70mm f1.1 APS-C format lens. This lens arrived in mid-2023 and then promptly disappeared from the Kamlan website. Some of these remain available new on eBay and AliExpress as of this video's recording in mid-2024, but insofar as I can tell, this lens appears to have been a highly limited and likely singular production run, so if you want this lens, I might not dilly-dally in buying it. Typical lens uses for an APS-C camera will be portraits. On APS-C, this lens has an angle of view that is similar to what we think of coming from a 105mm lens in full-frame terms. This is definitely meant to solely be a portrait lens, and though this video will have relatively few portrait samples, well, actually, yes, this lens absolutely excels at its intended use. For your bottom line up front, this lens's primary attraction is the absolutely bonkers f1.1 number on the aperture. However, this is not a true f1.1 lens because at least the front element, if not multiple elements in front of the aperture, have flat tops and bottoms. That shape, by the way, translates into specular highlights and the shape they take on images until the aperture closes to a size smaller than the front entrance pupil, and that occurs around f2. The specular highlights, when the lens is wider than f2, will often be jarring, and that's unfortunate because, well, this lens could have been great. Your focal length and angle of view are 70mm and 24 degrees on APS-C. Because this does not have a chip and you can use it on full-frame cameras as well, for those of you like me who want to use this on full-frame, the angle of view is equivalent to being approximately a 46mm lens with approximately a 51-degree angle of view on full-frame. There are some asterisks there, as the vignette does affect full use of the entire full-frame image area. The aperture range is 1.1 to 11. Element and group count are 9 and 7. Design type is, honestly, this quite surprised me. I did not expect it to be a double gauze, but well, here we are. Filter size is 77mm. The closest focus is 0.8 meters, which, in the US, is 5 times the width of a standard interstate highway lane stripe. The drive type is manual focus only. The native mounts were, or maybe still are, Sony E, Fuji X, Canon EF M, and Micro Four Thirds. The lens's dimensions are approximately 80 by 96mm with some slight length variation by mount. The weight is approximately 776 grams with some minor variations by mount. This focal length, speed, and minimum focus distance are designed for portraits, and this is not a general use lens, despite what this video shows. This lens excels at portraits, and that's really where it should live. For portraits, I do have a few tips. You can do great subject isolation or shallow focus with this lens focused close at wider apertures, and that's really a good place to use this lens. Specular highlights can be either amazing or trash, and there's little in between. With specular light, such as fairy lights behind your subject, try shooting at f8 to f11 with a very close focus to obtain good subject focus with stunning source point starlights behind. For jarring, blurry areas, what you want to do is have a busy or bright background and shoot wide open. Next up, this lens is very bright. Okay, so in full sun, you will not be able to use this lens wide open with the vast majority of cameras. On my A7 IV at 50 ISO, f1.1 requires a shutter speed faster than the camera can deliver, and the A7 IV goes up to 1/8,000th of a second. So I'm going to estimate that at those settings, I would need a 1/16,000th of a second to obtain a proper exposure. Here's what's weird. Using the Sunny 16 rule, a shutter speed of around 1/4000th would be expected in full sun at 50 ISO with f1.1. So, this lens appears to have absolutely exceptional light transmission, and that will definitely translate into good low light use. In fact, at the wider aperture, at f1.1 for sure, You can pretty much use this indoors for available light portrait shoots at a very reasonable ISO. Now, related to that, color transmission and accuracy are great at wider apertures. Contrast is great. Sharpness is pretty decent, even at the wider apertures. As this lens stops down with fixed white balance, the images will shift dramatically from warm to cool. If you want warmer color tones out of your camera, shoot wide. If you find your images are skewing cool, you'll likely stop down. Raw correction in post or in-camera white balance compensation can absolutely help here and make this a non-issue. For full-frame users, metering in center weighted will provide exposures which are more accurate. Using full scene meters will yield very bright subjects and overexposed images because the camera will be compensating for the lens's vignette outside of the APS-C image area. You can use that full scene meter for beneficial effect to create high-key portraits. Next up, this lens is too heavy for the mounting hardware. After a few uses of it, the screws that hold the mount flange onto the housing got very loose, like as in I almost lost one of them in the field. So I had to retighten them, and then it happened again. And so when I went back and retightened them the second time, I got tired of that. I grabbed some epoxy glue and put a little drop of epoxy over each of the screw caps. Haven't had that issue crop up again. So if you notice that happening, that's how you fix it. Purple fringing wide open is an issue, but relatively fast to correct in raw editing. Being an ultra-fast lens, some lower spec sensors and cameras are likely to have dark areas, specifically banding at the top of the sensor with electronic shutter settings, or even some pink magenta fringing along the perimeters, just due to the way that ultra-fast lenses translate light to some cameras. Lastly, full-frame users, don't run away from this lens. It covers well beyond the APS-C image area, and wide open, the vignette, especially at close focus, can be useful and pleasing for portrait subjects. Even stop down, a 4x5 crop can deliver highly useful images with minimal to no apparent vignette. We'll start today looking at the dots test chart for the APS-C area. The center sharpness is exceptional, with clear definition in the white squares and the monitor's pixels. However, chromatic aberration begins to sneak in relatively quickly and shifts magenta above the midpoint, green below, which indicates a slight misalignment from vertical in the camera to monitor alignment. And that's on me, by the way. APS-C corners exhibit a bit of chromatic aberration with blur. The blur is interesting to me because it doesn't match anything in the technical manuals and sources that I have on lens performance, because it's asymmetrical, and none of the Zeidel aberrations discussed in any of my books detail asymmetrical aberrations. Let's look at the full frame and see if that sheds any light on why this might be. So let's jump to the corners of the full frame image, because performance at the center is the same as in the APS-C test shot, and yes, they were separate test shots, by the way. What we saw at the very corner of the APS-C test has increased and very nearly reaches the full frame image corner. So here's what I think is going on. When a lens focuses a scene, it flips it upside down. When a lens has blurry areas, they take on the shape of the aperture. Wide open, that aperture is circular on most lenses, and that means even and symmetrical Zeidel flaws, because the circle is even and symmetrical. This lens has an entrance pupil, which is to say the front element, that is flat on top and on the bottom, and what we're seeing here is, I think, noteworthy levels of tangential astigmatism mixed with chromatic aberration, but because of the front element's shape, the astigmatism is cut off. This would be expected in a flipped image or in the top rows of the photo to have that cut off on the bottom, and the bottom of the front element would be the one responsible for cutting off the astigmatism blur. Unfortunately, the only way I would be able to prove this would be if I could get my hands on a copy of this lens that had the front elements being circular. I don't think that exists, at least not beyond the handful of photos of an early prototype that I saw online in some AliExpress listings the first few weeks this lens was for sale. And by the way, all of those photos were replaced in the listings very quickly. I love that this is a double gauze lens, and it shows what this optical design can do when pushed to extreme speeds. Double gauze lenses create stunning blurry areas, and this lens would definitely do that if not for the weird entrance pupil shape up front. This diagram aims to show that by providing a view of this lens top down, and where the front element is the full width of the lens, as well as from the side, where I've roughly estimated where the front element is chopped flat. Other than that weirdness with the front element, this lens, honestly, it's staggeringly good. Breathing, it was tested in APS-C shooting, and the sample video here was taken on full frame, where the 16:9 video crop eliminates most, if not all, of the image vignette. Breathing is almost imperceptible wide open in motion due to the thin depth of field. In still, breathing is also very minor across the 0.7 meter focus change, starting at the close focus point of 0.8 meters. The aperture is stepless and very smooth, with little resistance but a smooth motion and feel. The front element is non-rotating but does move in and out 11 millimeters, which is 16% of the lens focal length. The focus throw is approximately 170 degrees with a stationary milled and wide focusing ring. As a note, this lens can be focused smoothly when held horizontally. When pointed directly upward, the lens's weight tends to bind the focusing ring a bit and makes the focus ring movement significantly harder. Focus damping is lovely and smooth with spectacular tactile response. The AF effect on audio is NA, as this is a manual focus lens, but there is a soft tick sound at each end hard stop for the focus throw, and the focusing ring does make a soft whine as it moves. Both sounds are likely to be picked up with on-camera audio. Sharpness, even beyond the intended APS-C image area, is quite good, and using the full image circle out to a point where the vignette becomes intrusive can make this a highly useful lens with interesting blurry area characteristics in some settings. The build quality is exceptional aside from the earlier noted issues with the flange screws. The lens's handling is smooth, the feel solid, and this lens is strongly in keeping with Kamlan lenses as being, to my way of thinking, the most well-made manual focus lenses on the market right now. Contrast is okay and readily editable in post. At wider apertures, contrast is a bit flatter and colors are a bit more pallid, so shoot raw and that's not going to matter. The aperture stars are vexing. At f1.1 and f1.4, they're blurs that take on the shape of the front element, the entrance pupil. At f2 and f2.8, the focused blurry lights can have slight light points, but unfocused light has a very nice and generally circular character. At f4, the story changes dramatically, and some absolutely unreal aperture stars start to manifest. I mean, look, I know that I just gushed over the aperture stars on the TT Artisan 100mm bubble bokeh lens in the review last week, but I hadn't seen these test shots when I recorded that. At f8, the stars here are at their best, and, well, we have a new king of best ever aperture stars around here. They are crisp, well-defined, and clearly pointed with lovely secondary star points. At f11, they're definitely a bit like a brown banana, and the stars are past their peak, but still attractive if a bit of definition is lost due to the general glow in them. The out-of-focus area quality depends on your backgrounds. With busy backgrounds and apertures wider than f2, blurry areas will be migraine-inducing. With smooth backgrounds, however, blurry areas will be about the best, if not the best, that I've seen from any lens. So this lens's performance in that aesthetic aspect is going to be something worth keeping an eye on during shoots. Distortion is almost non-existent on APS-C. I did not test this on full frame, by the way. There is slight barrel distortion, but it's on the order of a handful of pixels. Light loss is tested here in both APS-C and full frame. It should be pretty clear which is which. On APS-C, there is a bit of shutter vignette due to this lens's speed, though this issue was rarely present in a severe enough level to affect real-world photography. At f2, that's functionally gone, as well as any corner light loss, and the story pretty much remains the same through the entire aperture range. In full frame, we see the full scope of the image circle vignette and the way that it changes across apertures. You can use this vignette to create an advantage and to add vignette at the wide apertures, and then at the smaller apertures you can use it to make clear boundaries for cropping down to 16:9, 4:5, or 5:7 aspect ratios in post to maximize the lens image circle use. One interesting item in this test is that the brightest area of this lens is in the lower half, and the overall illumination outside of the vignette is not even, which is weird. This will make your skies a bit darker. Sure, yes, that's true if you're shooting landscape orientation with this lens. But more importantly, this could have ramifications for portrait-oriented photos of people, as in some very select and hopefully uncommon settings, this could translate into uneven illumination that could potentially be edited out with RAW, maybe not, but could potentially lead to some uneven illumination in portrait-oriented photos. Just be aware of that. Flare never occurred for me, but I did also shoot this lens exclusively with the lens hood mounted. Ghosting did manifest for me exactly one time after dark with a very bright light in the frame. Overall, flare and ghosting performance were exceptional. Balance with cameras is not, for any camera, good because this lens weighs a lot. So if the front element shape change was just for weight reduction, honestly, why even bother with that Kamlan? This lens is already stupidly front heavy. Kamlan 70mm f1.1 APS-C lens, man. There is so much right with this. The aperture markings are accurate. The infinity focus point is properly calibrated. The blurry areas can be photographically life-changing, and it's highly usable on full frame. And then Kamlan went and made the front element a stadium shape instead of a circle. And yeah, that's a huge bummer. But taken for what it is, a lovely manual focus lens with a single, if sometimes bothersome, compromise, for the price, which as of this video's recording is around $170 new, honestly, the value's incredible. The images that this lens delivers can be absolutely captivating and stunning. There is a whole boatload that this lens does so well, and for portrait photographers on any system for which this lens is made, well, it could be an inexpensive way to create standout images that few other people can match the look of. You know, Kamlan is one of those badges that seems to move in fits and spurts, but more so lately, not at all. I don't know if there will be more Kamlan lenses. I do know that the ones I've tried, this lens, the first version of the 50mm 1.1, the 28mm 1.4, and the 32mm 1.1, have been, with the exception of that 50mm, very good. The APS-C, or Micro Four Thirds shooter who likes manual focus lenses can do no better than Kamlan. The full-frame shooter who can crop their images and likes manual focus lenses will be hard-pressed to do better than Kamlan. I said back in 2023 that I expected Kamlan was no longer an active badge, and then, not 2 weeks later, maybe less, this and the 32mm were announced. Once again, out of hope that I'm about to be proved wrong, I'm going to say that the lack of new lenses from Kamlan makes me guess it's probably a defunct badge. Looking at the other third-party lenses from the optical plants in China, these include 7 Artisans, TT Artisan, Viltrox, Venus Optics, Surui, Neewer, Lightdow, Laowa, Asterhori, Roadfisher, Mica, Yangnuo, and a good number of others I can't think of off the top of my head right now. Lenses from them seem to be dropping at a rate more like one a month across all of the names. And then from Kamlan, we have silence. And that's too bad, because there's something great about a bonkers fast lens that feels absolutely lovely to use. Hey, and if you enjoyed this video, check out this other one you'll probably really like too.